Hey everyone, Michelle Alexandria coming at you with another video. Now it's that time for the very first recap of the week, and we have Sony's 2023 CinemaCon presentation right out of the bat, right out of the gate. I took some notes, some kind of shaky notes. I admire my fellow press people who can write really copious amounts of notes in lickety split. I'm not that way, and it was really annoying because they kept saying they don't want us taking notes, and they said we could take notes during the presentation, but every time I tried to, they were like shining their light on me, telling me to stop, and so it was kind of frustrating. I was trying to take some really good notes, but I just couldn't because they just kept harassing me over it. And I was in a press area, and they told us we weren't allowed to take notes, but they wouldn't let us. So that was a little frustrating. So anyway, let's kick things off. Sony's presentation started off with a bang, where I had no idea what to expect from Sony's presentation tonight. So I would say, in some respects, they didn't disappoint. Others they did, and more they disappointed in the sense that I thought their attitude the entire night was really arrogant and condescending, and it was driving me nuts. And the environment was really weirdly kind of it didn't have energy to anything. But with all of that said, here's the rundown of everything we saw. We saw a bunch of new trailers. We saw some additional footage. So here's the rundown. Sony started it off with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence doing a video introduction, a really cool bit. They still have the chemistry. You can't go wrong with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together, riffing on each other and talking about Bad Boys 4. So they were on the set of Bad Boys 4. They didn't really tell us about the movie, just that they were filming it. They're 4 weeks into the filming, and they wanted to welcome everyone to CinemaCon, and that was about it. But it was a funny couple of minutes. It was kind of ultimately it was pointless, but Will Smith is a star, and people need to get over the whole slap thing that happened over a year ago. He apologized. Let's move on from that, people. But yeah, it was fun, and it makes me really excited to see Bad Boys 4. And honestly, it was like the entire theater really seemed to love that moment. It was one of the few moments of the night that got a nice little pop, a nice little chuckle from everyone. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great movie. Plus, it's a tried and true. After that, we get a movie called Dumb Money, and the cast is stacked for Dumb Money. It includes Seth Rogen, Paul Dano, and Vincent D'Onofrio, and a cast of like 30 different people. And basically, what this movie is, it tells us is a comedy about the guy who actually started the whole GameStop short selling craze in 2021. If you didn't get in on that, you missed out. I missed out on that entire craze, but I did jump in on a whole crypto craze at the time. So I got that, but this movie goes about telling you how all that short selling happened, but it's a comedy. And it looks really good. They showed us the first 5 minutes of the movie where Seth Rogen is a hedge fund guy, and he's trying to figure out what's going on and why GameStop is trending up, and basically it's going to crash hedge funds and all this other stuff. So it's really fun. And it should be a crowd-pleasing movie because it's basically about the little guy versus the man. So that was awesome. After that, we got another trailer for Insidious, The Red Door. We got 3 minutes of that. I don't know if that trailer's actually been released yet, but we got Insidious, The Red Door. I'm not up on my horror, and I never saw the first Insidious, but after watching this trailer, I'm really intrigued by this world, and I want to go back and watch the first one. Then Sony announced a partnership with Crunchyroll. They're gonna bring more and more animated movies to the big screen in the next couple of years. So not animated, but anime to the big screen after the success of some of their recent anime attempts at bringing anime to the big screen. So they're going to full in on partnering with Crunchyroll to bring up more stuff to the big screen. So that's always good for you anime fans. After that, they showed a clip of The Machine. And again, this is something that they showed last year. I think they have an amnesia because they claim they acted like they didn't do this movie last year, and it was the exact same presentation, The Machine, that they did last year. And the movie looks intriguing. The movie is about it's it's another comedy movie, and it's about a guy who was a college student and he got recruited into the Russian mob. And supposedly it's a true story, but it's not a true story. They just kind of jokingly call it a true story. And basically, the guy's a hitman for the mob, and he's only good when he's drunk. So it's a comedy. It's a hard R. That was the one thing that Sony kept mentioning throughout the entire night, was that most of the movies they're really leaning into the whole R-rated film, R-rated comedies, R-rated action, R-rated horror. They're really leaning into the whole R-rated thing. And I think I've made my opinion on that pretty plain over the years, that I just don't get the fascination with R ratings, because people act like it. I hate this idea that having an R rating automatically makes a movie great. It's as if people are still like 17-year-old boys or something who get excited when they see a boobie, or they get excited when they see blood gushing out of someone, and somehow a R rating makes a movie automatically amazing. And a good movie is a good movie. It's a good movie. Doesn't matter what the rating is. So yeah, the first R-rated movie of the night they showed was The City Is the Red Door. The Machine is going to be an R-rated movie. Then after that, we got Spider-Man Across the Universe, and once again, we got one of the producers. The name of the producer was Kemp Powers, who actually worked on the Soul movie for Pixar. So if you saw Soul and you like that guy is actually one of the directors of Spider-Man Across the Universe. So he came out, did a little talk up of the movie, brought a couple of people out from the cast, including Shamik Moore, who plays Miles Morales, Issa Rae, who plays Jessica Drew, and Haley Steinfeld came out. And they gave us, last year they showed us the first 15 minutes of the movie, which was basically animatronics, a combination of animatronics and a little bit of finished footage. And basically it was the first 15 minutes of the movie, so we got to see Gwen's story, and we got to see how Gwen Stacy has her falling out with the father, runs away from home, and kind of ends up in the Spider-Verse. Now we're getting the next 15 minutes of the movie, where actually the next 14 minutes from the 15-minute point that we saw last year. So now you've seen the scene in the movie trailer where Miles is kind of lying on his bed with his headphones on, and Gwen Stacy says, "Hey, you want to do something?" and she opens the portal. That's where this 14 minutes picks up, and we see them just kind of hanging out, flying through, web swinging through the city, talking about their lives and everything. And it was really good. It was actually it was a slow. There was no real action in it. It was all about character building the character of Miles, and showing him trying to adapt to being Spider-Man, and wearing the cape, not the cape, but wearing the suit, and his budding relationship with Gwen Stacy, and there's a beautiful line. There's a really beautiful line. I'm not sure if this counts as a spoiler. I don't think so, but I hope not. But there's a beautiful line in the movie where Gwen tells Miles that in every universe, in almost every universe in existence, there's a version of Gwen Stacy that falls for Spider-Man. and Miles has a hopeful look on his face, and then she says, "But it never ends well for either." So I was like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. That was an amazing that was an amazing moment of character building. And the animation looks like it's going to be great. It blends in a lot of it does kind of some neat kind of Batman. Batman. If you watch Batman '66 with where they have Biff Powell and all that kind of stuff in Batman '66, they do a little bit of that in Spider-Man Across the Universe, and they actually they take the comic book and they really kind of blend comic book panels into some of this animation that we saw. Half of it was rough, some of it was finished. There's some new music that they added to it, especially that entire opening sequence had a new music track in it that was pretty kind of mellow and nice. So yeah, I am kind of looking forward to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I actually am one of those people who wasn't too thrilled with the first one. So this one looks really good, and it's really and this thing is in two parts. And don't even get me started on why I'm kind of tired of movies being like never ending. These days, movies are nothing more than TV shows on a big screen. After that 14 minutes, we got Aaron Taylor Johnson came out to talk about Kraven the Hunter. They confirmed that yes, Kraven the Hunter is going to be an R-rated movie, and actually it's going to be Marvel's first R-rated movie. So for all you R-rated movie fans, yes, Kraven the Hunter is going to be R-rated. It is still slated to come out in October, and they showed us the very first trailer ever for this movie, and it was definitely a red band trailer because there was some blood and guts and stabby stabs and gushes of blood pouring out all over the place. So the trailer was really visceral. It was a really visceral trailer, and you would have thought you were watching a Wolverine movie, really, with all the stabbing that Kraven was doing in this movie. And Aaron Taylor Johnson, not Joy. Aaron Taylor Johnson was kind of pretty funny and charming when he introduced the movie. He was actually not in Vegas, but he did a video introduction, and he made a joke about, well, I'm a hunter. I'm not going to be like kissing anyone. I'm going to be slaying. So yeah, this is going to be an R-rated movie. Yeah. So yeah, it looks great. I'm just not sure what the point of it is, but maybe that's the point, not to have a point. I keep saying I'm one of these people who are kind of sick of the shared universe thing, where I just want superhero films or all films to be able to tell stories. And then if they want to connect up at some point later down the line, you do that. But focus on telling the story that you want to tell. That's kind of Marvel. While I don't have much issue with Marvel's Phase 4, I think the main issue with Marvel Phase 4 is they are telling a long-form mystery, and people don't have the patience for that, and they're doing it so haphazardly, where they're layering in bits and pieces, and people who see Marvel movies are now conditioned to look past the movie that they're watching. They're always looking like 3 movies down the line and trying to figure out how things are going to connect. And when things aren't connecting right away, that's why a lot of people just aren't feeling this phase. I think once you get to the Secret Wars and Kane Dynasty and all that kind of stuff, people will probably revisit these films, and then you'll be able to see how everything connects, and they'll become better. But with a film like Kraven, it doesn't have that baggage. You can actually go in, not know anything about Kraven, not have it connected to anything, and just enjoy it for what it is. And that's why I like movies like Kraven. And even Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it is their own self-contained thing. And I think Marvel should get back to that. And I think that's why the first 2 phases of Marvel of the Marvel Cinematic Universe work most because there was a clear A, B, C, and there was a clear A and B and ending to each phase. Like, you knew you were going to get the Avengers, you knew you were going to get Civil War, and you knew you were going to get Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet eventually, and each movie built on itself. So yeah, that's just me going on a tangent. But anyway, back to Craven. Craven was amazing. I like Craven. The trailer was solid. I think people are going to be happy with this movie. So lay your fears aside. When you see the trailer, I think it's going to win a lot of people over. After that, we got No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. It's the new R-rated Jennifer Lawrence comedy, and it's directed by Gene Stupinski, and they both were on hand to introduce the first 5 minutes of the movie, and I think they did this last year. I think I saw this last year, but I have a serious issue with this premise in the clip that I saw, because basically Jennifer Lawrence is what, like 30, in her 30s or something, and the kid that she's paid to seduce looks like he's at 15 or 16. If the roles were reversed, and there's like, if George Clooney was trying to go after like a 15-year-old girl, you can imagine the outrage and the outrage that would cause. But here, it's like it's treated as a comedy, and it's all cool and everything for this older, attractive woman to be trying to seduce like a kid. And somehow that's funny and okay. And I'm sorry, it just wasn't. And I'm not one who cries grooming or gets upset about it, most things. But for some reason, the double standard in No Hard Feelings just butt the crap out of me. And I know they want to kind of excuse it away by saying the kid that she's hired to seduce and bed down so that he could be ready for college is probably like 18. But that doesn't make it right. She's still like in her 30s or something, trying to bed down whose parent who was paid to sleep with a kid so that he doesn't go away to college a virgin. And I'm like, I'm supposed to find that acceptable? I'm supposed to laugh at that? I'm sorry, no, just no. And the kid that they hired, and the kid who's going to eventually be Jennifer, and the kid who actually, and the guy who's playing the kid in this movie, he looks like a kid. He looks like he's 14 or 15. So yeah, this movie is problematic to me, and it didn't get a single laugh in the theater at all. So yeah, I think that movie's kind of, I don't want to say doomed to failure, but the double standard just annoys me to no end. Then Sony came out, and actually a lot of Sony executives were on hand, but there were so many, it was hard to keep track of who was the president of which division. Everyone's a president at CinemaCon, it seems like. But yeah, they came out, talked a little bit about PlayStation Studios and all the licenses and everything else, and how there's 125 million console owners and everything. But they neglect to mention their IPs only sell about 5 or 10 million units, and they have to bundle the games with the console to kind of artificially bump up the sales number for some of their IP. I'm not saying that the IP stuff like God of War, Horizon, all that kind of stuff probably won't do decent numbers at the box office. I'm just saying the way they pitched it was really misleading on Sony's part, because I follow the gaming industry, and that was really misleading. So they talked about Gran Turismo. Again, they did this presentation last year, and I stand by my statement. The premise seems stupid, but the movie looks amazing, actually. The premise seems stupid, but the movie looks amazing. And it was funny because David Harbour and Orlando Bloom came out, and David Harbour was quite the comedian, because he was like, "Yeah, I don't understand how you do a movie about a racing game, about a simulation racing game, that had no plot or story to it." So he was skeptical about it, but apparently it's based on a true story. And basically what happened was, there was a marketing executive at Nissan. Was it a marketing executive at Nissan or Sony? I forget which one, but a marketing executive somewhere, played by Orlando Bloom, came up with the brilliant idea to work with Nissan and to have the Grand Turismo game and brand hook up with Nissan and do a tournament to find the very best Gran Turismo player in the world, and then put them into a real live racing car. So they actually show the transition of this kid having a dream of really wanting to be a real life race car driver, and he actually learns and learns how to play Gran Turismo, becomes the best in the world, and then basically Sony and Nissan created this Gran Turismo training school or something. So they brought in like a bunch of kids and taught them how to drive real life race cars. And then from there, the kid got onto a Gran Turismo team, and the rest is history. And they made a point of saying that the actual kid in real life, he's the one who's behind the wheel on all the racing scenes in the movie. So that's kind of interesting. And Neil Blomkamp is the director of this. So it should be a good movie, shockingly enough, because it does look amazing. Although there are some clear movies that are clearly, some moments in the film like where it was clearly CGI, and it was really weird the way it was done, because you could see the delineation between when something was real and it cut to a CGI shot back to real. So you can actually see that transition. I'm not sure if that's going to be jarring if you see it too many times, but it was kind of smooth, and normally I don't notice stuff like that, but I did notice it here. It just didn't detract away. It didn't detract from the racing scenes. But yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and I think that's going to be a surprise hit. After that, we got another R-rated comedy, one called Anyone But You, starring Glenn Powell and Sidney Powell. I may have got that last name wrong, so forgive me. I may have typed her last name wrong. I don't think her name's Sidney Powell, but Glenn Powell from Top Gun fame, and a woman named Sidney. And actually, here, let me just go to IMDb right now, because there's no reason why I can't give you guys the accurate information here. So IMDb.com. Anyone But You. It's not there, so let's go Glenn Powell. Let's see. Glenn Powell. I swear, I don't like IMDb's new interface. So, her name's Sydney Sweeney. So Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, and it's funny because on IMDb it says an untitled Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell Sony Pictures project, but the name of the movie is now officially called Anyone But You, and there was no synopsis, there was no plot explained at all. All they said was it's about, there was zero chemistry between those two as well. It was weird. It was weird watching that because there was kind of zero chemistry between those two. But basically, he's an asshole, she's a mess. Opposites attract, but they're a disaster, and they're in a exotic location. That's all they said the movie's plot was about. And they showed us a couple of scenes from the movie. It was okay. It was basically just her slapping him every minute or every couple of seconds, and he falls in love with her for some unforeseen reason. So yeah, I wasn't impressed with that one at all. That one was not impressive at all. Then after that, Jason Reitman came on, did a video, was on the video screen from the set of Ghostbusters. I forgot what, you see, this is why I sometimes hate trying to take notes when they won't let me, because they did give us the full title, the official title of Ghostbusters. Take Back the Night, maybe. I'm thinking it was Take Back the Night because it was funny because it's Jason Reitman. He comes on the screen. He's talking about a movie called Take Back the Night, and then the camera does a pullback, and you see Ecto 1, and you're like, "Ooh, Ghostbusters!" And then they're basically on the set of Ghostbusters in the New York firehouse, and it's with the entire cast from the last movie. So everyone's there. I can't even think of their names. But Paul Rudd's there. The kid from Stranger Things is there. Okay, I suck. Let me go back to IMDb and look it up so I can make sure I get the names right. But Ghostbusters. So yeah, it was Jason Reitman, and so it was Finn Wolfhard, Paul Rudd, and Carrie Coon. So the entire family is there, and it was funny because Carrie Coon, not Carrie Coon, but the girl who I absolutely adored. What was her name? I think it was Carrie Coon. Who I adored. I adored her her really bad one-line jokes, and this one was really funny and bad too because she was like, "Why did the bagel shop lose money?" And she was like, "Because the lot. Why was the bagel shop robbed?" And she was like, "Because the locks were broken." And I was like, "Okay, it is so bad, it's funny." I still think I'm just laughing thinking about how bad that joke was. It was so funny. It was so cute. So yeah, they're all in New York, working out of the fire station now. I don't know, Ghostbusters firehouse, and that was about all the information we got on the movie. But it was great seeing the cast together in the costume. They're on the set. They're making the movie. So yeah, let's go. I loved Ghostbusters Afterlife. Then after that, Antoine Fuqua, when Tom Rothman came out, and he just rubbed me the wrong way for the rest of the night. I was like, "Oh, shut up! You're driving me. Your arrogance is driving me nuts." I mean, some of his choice comments that really set me off was, one, he goes on and on and on about how he throws every other studio under the bus. So he keeps going on and on and on about how we at Sony, we stuck with you guys. We stuck with you guys throughout the pandemic and all this other stuff when everyone else was putting their movies on their streaming services. We stuck with you because we believe in the theatrical experience. And I'm sure everyone in the theater was like, "Rah, rah." And I was pissed because I'm sitting there going, it's easy for you, Sony, to make that claim when you don't have a freaking streaming service of your own. If you had a streaming service like all the other studios, you could bet your ass that Sony would have put some of their movies. They would have done day and date just like all the other studios did during the pandemic because that was the smart business decision at that time. I'm so sick of hearing everyone complaining about day and date movies and how oh, all these studios screwed over theaters and everything. The theaters were closed. The theaters were closed for over a year. What were they supposed to do? They had a huge backlog of movies that were just sitting on the shelf. And they still had other movies in production. Those movies had to come out at some point. They couldn't afford to keep that stuff on the shelf and then have a glut of product in the market once things opened up. So of course they put that stuff on the streaming service. It was no slight to the movie theaters. They would have loved to have that stuff on the streaming service in the theater if they could, but they couldn't. And they had these streaming platforms that they own that they could just drop stuff on. So I wish the folks at CinemaCon and everyone else would just shut the F up about that, please. And for the love of God, people who want to see movies on a big screen will go and see it. Though people who would want to see it on the small screen will see it that way. Choice is good. You can't browbeat people into using your product, especially if you aren't trying to improve your product. One of these days, this rant is going to get me kicked out of CinemaCon, but I just have to say it. I love the movie-going experience. I love seeing movies on the big screen, but only when it's a great presentation. Like CinemaCon is a beautiful place to see a movie. You had top-notch laser projectors. You had the amazing audio. You had the communal spirit that they really preach here at CinemaCon. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. I come to CinemaCon because it renews my faith in theaters, but my local AMC is horrible. All the AMCs and Regals in my area are horrible. They could barely make popcorn, much less project something properly. I will say they've been better in the last few months, but as an avid moviegoer myself, I can see why people would rather stay home than go out to the theaters. I think theaters need to focus on improving the product, and Hollywood needs to focus on giving us stuff that makes us want to go to the theaters to see something. And I think this year and most of last year, they've actually been doing that. But the theater companies need to actually step up and do their part too. They can't continue to let their theaters go to pot and expect people to want to go. So it's a give and take, but you can't just blame streaming for everything. You can't just throw your fellow theater, Hollywood, studios under the bus just because you made the business decision to not go day and date when, again, you couldn't have because you did not have a streaming outlet. Sure, you could have made one-off deals with Amazon and Apple and all that kind of stuff, but it was easier just to hold on to your product. But yeah, it was just frustrating listening to that. Then Tom Rothman said something else that drove me insane when he was like, he made this really big chest-thumping statement that streaming services don't make stars and stars don't go on streaming services. They're in the big screen on the movie theater, and he's pumping his chest and everyone in the theater is cheering. And I'm sitting there going, I know I'm at a convention for theater owners. I know that. But come on. Half of today's movie stars came from theater, from TV. Bryan Cranston, Patrick Stewart, and there's a whole bunch of people that I'm blanking on now that had successfully transitioned over to the movies. This isn't the 70s and 80s where there was a clear distinction between a movie star and a TV star, or someone on Gilligan's Island and or Al Pacino. Those days are gone. There's a blend and there's a crossover, and you have movie stars beating their doors down to get onto a streaming service and do streaming platforms. Henry Cavill, Jennifer Aniston, all of these movie stars are doing TV shows now. So to throw them under the bus for such a stupid offhand comment was just unnecessary. It really was unnecessary and just ticked me off to no end. But sorry for that rant. Back to the presentation. He redeemed himself a little bit when basically Antoine Fuqua came out, and that's when things kind of picked up for me personally, because Denzel Washington received the CinemaCon Lifetime Achievement Award. They did a Denzel Washington scissor reel, and then Denzel came out and he got a huge pop, a nice standing ovation, and you're just kind of like, woo, Denzel! And people were actually screaming his name too, and it was funny because it was like Denzel, woo! So yeah, that was a great moment. That was a highlight for me. Was just the positive vibe that moment got, especially after Tim Rothman stupid comments. So yeah, that was amazing. And then he did he brought out Dakota Fanning, who I love. I love her. I love Dakota Fanning. She's awesome. She's not in enough stuff. Be in more stuff, Dakota. So then they did Equalizer 3 trailer, 3 minutes of Equalizer 3, and it was Equalizer. It was amazing. It was kick-ass. It was what you expect from an Equalizer movie. This time he seems to have found a home in like Italy or someplace, or Venice or someplace like that, in some foreign country, and he's found peace. He's finally found peace, and he found his happy place, and he found Zen, and you're like, oh, and of course that can't last because the mafia, some Russian mafiosos or some kind of mafia comes into his towns and messes stuff up, and they're just asking for the Equalizer to come in and equalize them, and that's what he does. So yeah, it was awesome. I love that moment. It's a great trailer. And then arrogant Tom Rothman came back out, and he may be a perfectly nice guy. He looks like he's a nice guy. He's sounding like a nice guy, but he was arrogant, and it was just, it's driving me nuts. And I know he's going to get cheers and praise from all corners of everyone covering the CinemaCon, but not from me. And, I try to stay positive, but yeah, it was just, but apparently he was so happy to announce that Apple TV, I forgot what they're calling themselves, Apple Pictures Group maybe, but Apple is forming their own Pictures Group, and they have partnered with Sony Pictures to distribute all Apple Pictures movies. And the first one out of the gate would be Napoleon, Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Apparently he's going to have a cast of thousands, and it's going to be it features Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon, and that actually the movie's coming out in September, October. So this fall is going to be the fall, the year for Joaquin, because he has Joker 2 coming out this fall as well. So Joker 2, I wonder, we're going to get some footage of Joker 2 tomorrow at Warner Brothers. That's going to be awesome. It just dawned on me because that movie's finished filming too, so there's no reason why we shouldn't get some footage. So yeah, that could be awesome. So yeah, he has Joker 2 and Napoleon coming out in the fall, and it's from Apple Pictures and Ridley Scott, and they showed us 5 or 6 minutes of Napoleon. It was basically just one extended battle scene, and basically it was Ridley Scott doing what Ridley Scott does, all practical effects. A huge battle between it was like Germany and France teaming up to take on Napoleon. This sequence was Germany and France teaming up to take out Napoleon's army, and basically Napoleon baited them in into a trap and surrounded them, and it was a great battle sequence. It was weird. It was a nice big screen battle, but from a cinematography standpoint, it was hard to follow because it was kind of like really like cloudy and overcast. So it's weirdly hard to tell what was really going on. I need to see a lot more, but I was impressed with the scale and scope of everything. And it's Ridley Scott, so you know it's going to be. I did not know Ridley Scott's never won an Oscar. That amazes me. Maybe Napoleon's going to be the movie that's going to get him his Oscar. It better. But yeah, the scope and scale of the movie looks impressive. But I think the cinematography of the clip they showed really hurt it because it was hard to make out what was happening in that clip. But yeah, so Apple is doing a full bore theatrical release of Napoleon with the full length theatrical window before it goes to streaming. And again, there's a lot of arrogance in the way Tom Rothman delivered that message, and he was like, "You see, we at Sony, we were right to stick with the theatrical window. Oh how," and he literally was like, "Oh how the tables have turned. The streamers are coming back to the theaters and all this other stuff." And I was just kind of like, "Oh, enough! You're giving me a headache with this nonsense." But yeah, so there you go. That is Sony's presentation. Overall, I would grade Sony's presentation a C. The things that I really loved was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That gets an A. The Craven trailer and footage, that was great. That gets a solid B plus. I would give it an A, but I have no idea where it's going or what the point of it is yet. But I loved it. The Machine, I enjoyed the Machine trailer for what it was, so I'll give that a C. Dumb Money, definitely gets an A. It definitely gets an A because I remember all the GameStop stuff, and I was kicking myself for not getting in on that GameStop scam. But I did get in on the AMC short. I got in on that. So thank you, AMC. I made some cash off the AMC stock, and I got in on the whole crypto stuff. So yeah, all because of the GameStop. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all because I made a nice chunk of change off of that. And then not retirement money change, but it was nice. And then what else? Gran Turismo, definitely an A trailer. That movie's gonna rock it. I loved it. Equalizer, again an A. Ghostbusters, Afterlife, they didn't show us anything, so it's hard to give that like an A or anything. But I'm excited. I'm excited for Ghostbusters. Bad Boys 4, again, they didn't show us anything, but I'm excited. I'm excited for Ghostbusters. Insidious actually did something for me, and nothing about the first movie interested me at all. So I never actually watched it. I didn't like those trailers at all. There was nothing to them that made me want to go see it. But this new one, Insidious: The Red Door, yeah, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to see this movie. I kind of want to watch the first one now. So that's a trailer that did its job. So you got to give that an A as well. And the Denzel Washington appearance gets an A plus. Everything else was kind of meh to me. So yeah, overall, I would give the presentation a B minus. I would give it a higher grade, but Tom Rothman just kind of annoyed me, and several of the Sony execs kind of just annoyed me the entire night. So yeah, that's it. First CinemaCon presentation down. Tomorrow is all about Warner Brothers, and actually, it's all about Warner. I was thinking we had Universal tomorrow. Let's go to CinemaCon schedule. I think we had Warner Brothers, and then we have Universal tomorrow too. No, we have Universal on Wednesday. So yeah, tomorrow is all about Warner Brothers. Tomorrow is Warner Brothers from 8:30 to 12:30. So again, I think we're going to get a screening, probably a Barbie tomorrow morning, and then we'll get The Flash at 2 o'clock, and that's a pretty solid CinemaCon day. So I'll be back tomorrow night with a recap of on my day with Warner Brothers. Maybe I'll just call it my day with Warner Brothers. But yeah, overall, I wasn't disappointed with Sony's presentation, but they've had a lot better presentations over the years. And I felt like some of the stuff they showed last year, maybe they just forgot. I don't know. It was kind of weird. So yeah, that was Sony's presentation. So anyway, and I'm trying not to be negative, but I feel like I was a little negative on this video. I didn't mean to be negative, but yeah, it was kind of a frustrating presentation, but it was good. I'm glad I went. So there's that. So anyway, talk to you guys later. I'm going to go sit in the jacuzzi for 20 minutes and go to bed because it's an early morning tomorrow with Warner Brothers. So talk to you guys later. Bye.